It is a direct upgrade of KBT08 Anzudo Beetle, sporting a newer look, stronger guns, and a much more bloodthirsty mindset on the art of war. It is KBT15 Anzwei, with a kit of Rebirth, double Inferno, biped legs, and the leg ability of Bloodstain, which buffs power when attacking and breaking apart on the target when attacking them. Now, as a direct upgrade to Anzudo Beetle, who also specialized in the art of double sacrifice, alongside other notable models of that same series and style, Anzwei is most certainly no exception to this rule. The difference, however, is that despite the more slimmed down look and much stronger looking guns, this one is definitely designed with the mindset of shooting to kill. Rebirth is a healing-based skill that, when activated, will restore all broken parts on the target when activating. Now granted, this means that it will only bring back all the broken parts at 10% HP, but this honestly is good in comparison to, say, basic restore or first aid, which will only restore one broken part at a time. Whereas Rebirth allows Anzwei the ability to restore more than one at once and get back into the combat field, despite even having very paper armor at that point. Inferno on both arms is a brand new skill being introduced into the game. And simply put, and as explained, it behaves much with the same mechanics and behavior of Microwave, which means it gets a damage bonus relative to your Metaforce charge, and it also has passive defense ignore, but also self-destructs up after use. But it says that for any opponents that do somehow survive that vicious onslaught, it does also have mechanics and behaviors of blowaway, which means that when attacking the target, it will push them all the way back to their starting position on their side of the field. So not only is this a very powerful sacrificial nuking skill, essentially just a step up right up there next to Microwave in many cases, this also was designed for crowd control. If they somehow, by sheer chance, survive the first blow, it will be pushing them all the way back and turning it into crowd control territory. But it is also worth noting with that, blowaway is also kind of a gambling skill that you have to pay attention to with timing, as if you catch a foe in cooldown, it will accelerate their cooldown all the way so that they can start their next turn right then and there. But when it comes to Anzwei, her goal is more to kill than it is to crowd control. Just consider crowd control kind of being the secondary effect if they somehow survive. Biped legs means that Anzwei will have very solid coverage on most terrains and very solid specs across the board too. At about 841 base mobility, she is going to be packing some very good speed when it comes to moving across the field on most terrains. An evade of 1047 isn't too shabby, definitely not anything broken compared to what we've seen over the last several weeks, but still, she will have a relatively decent time being able to dodge or grace low success attacks, or attacks that maybe won't hit super often. With the melee resist of 655, that's definitely where she falls short just a little bit though, as that means that while she definitely is good at dealing the punch, or the bullet in this case, anyone that does get up close and personal in her space will definitely be the one to make her suffer and make sure that she sees a lot of pain for trying to attack her, to attack the targets. A shoot resist of 1206 actually is a lot better though, as this means that while she's not so good up close and personal, she can definitely hold her own moderately well when taking pot shots from afar, whether that be dealing them or receiving them. As a pure set score, I do honestly have to rate Anzwei a pretty solid 7.5 out of 10. In comparison to other sacrifice types that use that rely on HP as their damage bonus, based on what's explained, Microwave doesn't seem to, or not Microwave, Inferno doesn't seem to do that, as that means that once an arm is broken, all Anzwei has to do is use Rebirth to restore both arms, and she's essentially back to where she left off. However, it is worth noting that even with that, with Rebirth kind of making her progressively easier to kill, she does, even if she has decent synergy, she does and she doesn't. Bloodstain will buff her base power and make it more likely that she is going to break something on the next blow. And Inferno means that her damage bonus is supposedly going to be more reliant on her charge gauge instead of her remaining HP. But that also is where she falls short, given that Inferno, it seems to be Metaforce reliant, but she doesn't have any Metaforce reliant or Metaforce sustained skills to offset the loss of both arms. So this does make using her relatively tricky the first few turns, unless you decide and opt to have her charge Metaforce the first 2 or 3 turns to get some charge going and then use them. That might be a different story. But at that point, you're kind of encroaching on rather dangerous territory in competitive meta, and at that point, you're kind of better off using other builds or other parts. As mixed parts, though, I do have to rate her relatively equally again at about a 7.5 out of 10. Even if her parts together still have very decent synergy with each other, aside from the lack of Metaforce sustain, as mentioned, her parts honestly still are very powerful and make her a force to be reckoned with. Rebirth, generally can't go wrong with it as a healing skill just to make sure you have parts on the field, as they're often better to have them at 10% than not at all. And if I'm understanding Inferno correctly and explaining it correctly, it does look like it's going to be a very nice alternative to anyone that's using Microwave. So say anyone that is using Ben 10 Sada as an example, since this will be for mono female teams, this will be a very interesting alternative to use, especially since it's worth noting that apparently both of Anzwei's arms, despite having high power outputs, are also non-heavy, which grants you even more versatility when using them and putting builds together.